Okay, tonight is the 6th of September, and this is the 6th night we're talking on the Theragatha. And now we come to verse 892, Anuruddha. Anuruddha is one of the most famous arahants during the Buddha's time. Leaving father and mother, sisters, kinsmen and brothers, abandoning the 5 strands of sensual pleasure, Anuruddha indeed meditates. 893. Attended with song and dance, awakened by cymbals and gongs, he did not thereby attain to purity, delighting in Mara's realm. 894. But crossing over this, delighting in the Buddha's teaching, crossing over all the flood, Anuruddha indeed meditates. 895. Forms, sounds, tastes, smells, and delightful things to touch. Passing over these too, Anuruddha indeed meditates. 896. The sage returned from alms begging alone, without companion, without asavas. Anuruddha seeks rags from a rubbish heap. Stop here for a moment. Anuruddha came from a wealthy family. After becoming a monk, he looks for rags in the rubbish heap. 897. The sage, the thoughtful Anuruddha, without asavas, sifted, took, washed, dyed, and wore the rags from a rubbish heap. 898. The characteristics of one who has great desires is dissatisfied, lives in company, and is conceited, are evil and defiled. 899. But he is mindful, desiring little, satisfied and untroubled, delighting in seclusion, joyful, continually putting forth energy. 900. His characteristics are good, conducive to enlightenment, and he is without asavas. So it is said by the great seer. 901. Knowing my intention, the teacher, unsurpassed in the world, by his supernormal power, approached me with body made of mine. 902. When I had the intention, then he taught me more. The Buddha, delighting in the undiversified, taught me the undiversified. 903. Having learned his Dhamma, I dwelt delighting in his teaching. The 3 knowledges have been obtained. The Buddha's teaching has been done. 904. 55 years have passed since I adopted the sitting position. 25 years have passed since torpor was rooted out. Stop here for a moment. So look, he has practiced this sitting, sleeping, or sitting, resting for 55 years. And he had been an arahant for 25 years. So you can see from here, it took him 30 years to attain arahanthood. 30 years of practicing this sitting position. So it's not easy to attain arahanthood. Even if you practice very hard, so it takes at least that amount of time generally. 905. There was no breathing in and breathing out for the Venerable One with steadfast mind, unmoved, aiming at peace. The one with vision is quenched. 906. With undisheartened mind, he endured sensation. Like the quenching of a lamb was the release of his mind. 907. These now are the last sense impressions of the sage, touch and the other 4. Nor will there be any other mental phenomena since the enlightened one is quenched. That means his thinking, uncontrolled mental outflows, his uncontrolled thoughts have stopped. 908. Not now is there renewed dwelling in the company of the devas and snarer. Journeying on from rebirth to rebirth is completely annihilated. There is now no renewed existence. 909. By whom the world, together with Brahma's heaven, is known 1,000-fold in a moment. That monk, having mastery in the strands of supernormal power or psychic power, and in knowledge of passing away and rebirth, sees the devatas in time. This one, stop here for a moment. Anuruddha is supposed to be able to see the 1,000 world systems in the palm of his hand. His mind has opened up so wide. that his mind, so that even 1,000 world systems to him is so small. Remember the story of the Xuan Chuang going to the India, to the west, and the monkey god was very naughty. He thought his psychic power was very great. And the Buddha asked him to jump, and then told him he only jump between the two fingers of the Buddha, something like that. 110. I was formerly Anabara, food carrier, a poor carrier of fodder. I made an offering to the famed ascetic Uparita. 111. I was reborn in the Sakyan clan. They knew me as Anuruddha. I was attended with song and dance, awakened by the cymbals and gongs. 112. Then I saw the fully enlightened one, the teacher with no fear from any quarter, making my mind trust in him. I went forth into the homeless state. 113. I know my former habitation or lives, where I lived before. I remain among the Tavatimsa Devas with birth as Sakka. 914. 7 times I ruled a kingdom as king of men, possessing the whole world. A conqueror, the lord of Jambu Sanda. I governed without stick or sword, righteously. I mean, he was a wheel-turning king, as universal monarch. 915. From here 7, from there 7, in all for 14 journeys. I know my habitation. Then I remain in the Deva world. 916. In 5-fold peaceful concentration, fixed on one point, I have obtained complete repose. My Deva eye is purified. 917. Standing in 5-fold meditation, I know the passing away and rebirth of creatures, their coming and going, their existence in this form or that. 918. The teacher has been waited on by me. The Buddha's teaching has been done. The heavy load has been put down. That which leads to renewed existence has been rooted out. 919. In Veluva village of the Vajis, after the complete annihilation of life, I shall be quenched under a tree in the bamboo grove without asavas. And then probably could see the future where he's going to pass on. Actually, in one of the suttas, because he was Kakadevaraja before, probably before he came down as a human being, so his former wife, Devi, from the heaven, came down to see him and asked him, like, when is he going up to the heaven again? And he said he'll never go up to the heaven again. Parapariya, this monk also has a lot of nice words, which I appreciate very much. 920. A thought came to the ascetic in the great wood when it was in flower, when he was seated, intent, secluded, meditating. So here he tells of all the things that came to his mind. 921. The behavior of the monks now seems different from when the protector of the world, the best of men, was alive. 922. There was protection from the wind, a loincloth as covering for their modesty. They ate moderately, satisfied with whatever came their way. 923. If it were rich food or dry, little or much, they ate it to keep alive, not being greedy, not clinging to it. 924. They were not very eager for the necessities of life, for medicines and requisites, as they were for the annihilation of the asavas. 925. In the forest, at the foot of trees, in caves and grottos, devoting themselves to seclusion, they dwelt, making that their aim. 926. Devoted to lowly things, of frugal ways, gentle, with unstubborn minds, uncontaminated, not garrulous, not talkative, intent upon thinking about their goal. 927. Therefore their gait, eating, and practices were pious. Their deportment was smooth, like a stream of oil. 928. Now those elders with all asavas completely annihilated, great meditators, great benefactors, are quenched. Now there are few such men. 929. Because of the complete annihilation of good characteristics and wisdom, the conqueror's teaching, endowed with all excellent qualities, is destroyed. 930. This is the time of evil characteristics and defilements, but those who are ready for seclusion possess the remainder of the true Dhamma. This is one of the verses I like. Just like nowadays, time of evil characteristics and defilements among the Sangha. But those who are ready for seclusion, stay in forest areas or forest monasteries, they possess the remainder of the true Dhamma. 931. Those defilements increasing enter many people. They sport with fools, I think, as demons do with the mad. 932. Those men overcome by defilements run here and there in the divisions of defilement, as if their own private battle with Mara had been proclaimed. 933. Having abandoned the true Dhamma, they quarrel with one another. Following after false views, they think this is better. 934. Having cast aside wealth and sons and wife, they go forth. They cultivate practices which are not to be done, even for the sake of spoon alms. 935. Having eaten their fill, they lie down, lying on their backs. When awake, they tell stories which were condemned by the teacher. 936. Thinking highly of all the artisans' crafts, they train themselves in them, not being calm inside. This is the goal of the ascetic state to them. 937. They present clay, oil and powder, water, lodgings and food to householders, desiring more in return. 938. Tooth cleaner and kapita fruit and flowers and food to chew, palatable alms and mangoes and myrobalans they give. 939. In medicines they are like doctors, in their various duties like householders, in adornment like courtesans, in authority like nobles. 940. Cheats, frauds, false witnesses, unscrupulous, with many stratagems, they enjoy the things of the flesh. 941. Running after pretexts, arrangements, stratagems, aiming at a livelihood, they accumulate much wealth by a device. 942. They cause the assembly to meet for business purposes, not because of the Dhamma. They preach the Dhamma to others for gain and not for the goal. 943. Those who are outside the Sangha quarrel about the Sangha's gain. Being quite shameless, they are not ashamed that they live on another's gain. 944. Not applying themselves. In this way, some with shaven heads and wearing their outer robe desire only reverence, being bemused by gain and honor. 945. When various things have thus turned out, it is not now so easy either to attain the unattained or to keep safe what has been attained. 946. As one might go shoeless in a thorny place if he summoned up mindfulness, so should a sage go in a village. Now there's a lot of thorns in the village. Have to be very careful. 947. Remembering the former sages, recollecting their behavior, even though it is the last hour, one may attain the undying state. 948. Thus speaking in the Salwood, the ascetic with developed faculties, the Brahmana, the seer, was quenched, with renewed existence annihilated. So this monk, he was thinking during the Buddha, when the Buddha was alive, the monks were practicing well. And now that the Buddha has passed on, there are very few arahants, and the majority of the monks are not interested in practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. They are interested in two things, fame or reverence and gains, offerings. Now we come to the group of 30 verses, Pusa, 949. Seeing many believers with themselves developed, well restrained, the seer Pandarasa Gota asked the one called Pusa, 950. This Pandarasa Gota must be an external ascetic. Tell this to me when asked, in the future time, of what desire will people be, of what intention, of what behavior? And this Pusa must be an Arahant, he said, 951. Hear my words, seer, called Pandarasa. Consider them carefully. I shall describe the future. 952. In the future, many will be angry and full of hatred, hypocritical, obstinate, treacherous, envious, and with different doctrines. 953. Thinking that they have knowledge about the profound Dhamma while only remaining on the brink, fickle and irreverent towards the Dhamma without respect for one another. 954. Many perils will arise in the world in the future. The foolish will defile this well-taught Dhamma. 955. Although devoid of virtuous qualities, running affairs in the Sangha, the incompetent, the garrulous, and those without learning will be strong. 956. Although possessing virtuous qualities, running affairs in the Sangha in the proper manner, the modest and unconcerned will be weak. 957. In the future, fools will accept silver and gold, that means money, fields, property, goats and sheep, and male and female servants. So this is something that even nowadays is happening. 958. Easily taking offense, fools, not concentrated in virtues, frivolous, they will wander about like quarrelsome animals. 959. And they will be conceited, clothed in blue robes, deceitful, stubborn, chatterous, sharp-witted. They will wander as though they were noble ones. 960. With hair sleeked with oil, vain, with eyes painted with collyrium, they will go on the highway, clad in ivory-colored clothes. 961. Infatuated with white robes, they will detest the yellow robe, the well-dyed banner of the Arahants, which is worn without detestation by those who are completely released. 962. They will be desirous of gain, inactive, devoid of energy, finding their woodland wilderness wearisome, they will dwell in villages or towns and cities. 963. Being unrestrained, they will associate with and follow the example of only those who obtain gain, and delight always in wrong means of livelihood. 964. Those who do not obtain gain will not be objects of worship. They will not follow the wise, even though they are very pleasant. 965. Finding fault with their own banner, which is dyed the color of copper, some will wear the white banner of the sectarians. 966. Then they will have no reverence for the yellow robe, and there will be no consideration for the yellow robe among monks. 967. This very terrible lack of consideration was unthinkable to the elephant, overcome by pain, pierced by the arrow, hurt. 968. For then the 6-tusked elephant, seeing the well-dyed banner of the Arahants, straightway said these salutary verses. 969. The impure one who will wear the yellow robe, devoid of self-taming and truth, does not deserve the yellow robe. 970. But he who has put away impurity, is well concentrated in the virtues, is possessed of self-taming and truth, indeed deserves the yellow robe. 971. Devoid of virtue, foolish, unrestrained, acting willfully, with wandering mind, without energy, he does not deserve the yellow robe. 972. But he who is possessed of virtue, rid of desire, concentrated, whose mind's intentions are pure, deserves the yellow robe. 973. The conceited, frivolous fool who has no virtue deserves the white robe. What will the yellow robe do for him? 974. Both monks and nuns with evil minds, disrespectful, will in future rebuke the venerable ones whose minds are full of loving kindness. 975. Even though being trained in the wearing of the robe by the elders, fools will not listen, being stupid, unrestrained, acting willfully. 976. Those fools, being thus untrained, without respect for one another, will take no notice of their preceptors, as a bad horse takes no notice of the charioteer. 977. So during the future time will be the behavior of monks and nuns, when the last time has come. 978. Before this very fearful future time comes, be of pleasant speech, congenial, with respect for one another. 979. Be with your minds full of love, compassionate, restrained in the virtues, putting forth energy, resolute, always of strong effort. 980. Seeing indolence as a fearful thing, and vigilance as rest from exertion, develop the eightfold path attaining the undying state. So he's talking about the future monks. Now we come to Sariputta, 981. Of restrained conduct, full of mindfulness, like a mindful one, meditating with restrained intentions, vigilant, delighting in inward things, with self well concentrated, alone, content, him they call a monk. 982. Whether eating moist or dry food, he should not be satisfied. A monk should wander with unfilled belly, eating in moderation, mindful. 983. Leaving 4 or 5 mouthfuls, he should drink water. This is sufficient for the abiding in comfort of a resolute monk. 984. If he covers himself in the proper robe, which is for this purpose, this is sufficient for the abiding in comfort of a resolute monk. 985. If it does not rain on his knees as he sits cross-legged, this is sufficient for the abiding in comfort of a resolute monk. 986. Who has seen happiness as pain, has seen pain as the dart, and realized that there is nothing between the two, with what in the world will he be concerned? 987. May I never have anything to do with an evil wisher, who is inactive and devoid of energy, with little learning, disrespectful. With what in the world will he be concerned? 988. Let the one who has great learning, is prudent, well concentrated in virtues, devoted to peace of mind, stand right at the head. 989. He who is devoted to the diversified world, an animal delighting in the diversified world, fails to attain quenching, unsurpassed rest from exertion. 990. But he who, abandoning the diversified world, delights in the path to the non-diversified world, he attains quenching, unsurpassed rest from exertion. 991. Whether in the village or in the forest, on low ground or on high, wherever the Arahants live, that is delightful country. 992. Forests are delightful, where ordinary people find no delight. Those rid of desire will delight there. They are not seekers after sensual pleasures. 993. If one should see a seer of faults, a teller of one's errors, a prudent man, one should associate with such a clever man, like a revealer of treasure. It fares better, not worse, for one who associates with such a one. This one is good advice, but very few people can take it, because if you stay with the teacher, always telling you your faults, if you are not willing to change, then you get annoyed rather than happy. 994. He should advise, he should admonish, he should restrain from the improper, for he is the friend of the good, he is the enemy of the bad. 995. The Blessed One, the Buddha with vision, taught the Dhamma to another. While the Dhamma was being taught, being desirous of it, I turned an attentive ear. 996. My listening was not in vain. I am released without asavas, not for knowledge of former habitation, nor even for the deva eye, nor for the psychic power of knowledge of other people's thoughts, nor for knowledge of passing away and rebirth, nor for purity of the ear element was there any resolve of mind. Up here for a moment. So actually, after 2 weeks that he had ordained under the Buddha, he was fanning the Buddha, maybe on a hot afternoon, and the Buddha was talking with an external ascetic. And Sariputta was fanning the Buddha and listening to the two of them talking. Then when he understood the Dhamma, then he attained enlightenment. And after he became an Arahant, even though he had all the jhanas, he was not interested in psychic power. He was not interested in reading other people's mind or seeing his past births and all these things. So he never attained any psychic power. Even though, because he had attained the 4 jhanas, 4 rupa jhanas, 4 arupa jhanas, and even cessation of perception and feeling, which means his mind is very bright. When he closes his mind, as the sutta says, day is like night, and night is like day. It's bright. But it's different from psychic power. It's not psychic power. That kind of light, you cannot use it to see around you. That's why once he was with this Venerable Mahamoggallana, and they were in the forest together and meditating. And two yakas flew by. And one of them gave a blow on Sariputta's head. Such a huge blow. It seems the mountain also could have split open. But immediately after that, the yaka died. Then Mahamoggallana saw it. Then was concerned, asked Venerable Sariputta, how are you feeling? He said, I'm okay, except that I have a slight headache. So Mahamoggallana praised him. Said, his samadhi is so good that blow would have flattened a mountain or something. And yet he just said he got a slight headache. So when Venerable Sariputta praised him and told him what happened, then he praised Venerable Moggallana in return. Said, Venerable Moggallana's psychic power is so great. He says for himself, even there's a mud sprite. There's a spirit in the mud just in front of him, so he cannot see. He said. Where were we? Okay, 998. Near the foot of a tree with shaven head, clad in an outer robe, the elder Upatissa, supreme in wisdom, truly meditates. His real name, Sariputta, is Upatissa. Sariputta means son of Sari. 999. Having attained to non-reasoning, the disciple of the fully enlightened one is straightway possessed of noble silence. 1000. Just as a rocky mountain is unmoving, well-founded, so a monk, like a mountain, does not tremble after the annihilation of delusion. 1001. To a man who is without sin, always seeking purity, a hair's tip measure of evil seems as if the size of a cloud. On this one, I'll stop here for a moment. If a person is very pure, is very sensitive, anything that he does wrong, he'll be afraid of doing wrong. But a lot of people, because of greed, hatred and delusion, we don't bother with our conscience. But the problem is when a person is dying, all the things that you did wrong, that you didn't think was a big deal, at the moment of dying, they will seem very big. Those are our karmic obstructions. 1002. I do not long for death. I do not long for life. I shall lay down this body attentive and mindful. 1003. I do not long for death. I do not long for life. But I await my time as a servant his wages. 1004. On both sides this is death, not non-death, either afterwards or before. Enter on the way, do not perish. Let not the opportunity pass you by. 1005. As a frontier city is guarded inside and out, so you should guard yourselves. Let not the opportunity pass you by. For those who have missed the opportunity grieve when consigned to hell. 1006. Calm, quiet, speaking in moderation, not conceited. He shakes off evil characteristics as the wind shakes off the leaves of a tree. 1007. Calm, quiet, speaking in moderation, not conceited. He plucked off evil characteristics as the wind plucks off leaves from a tree. 1008. Calm, without grief, settled and undisturbed, of good virtue, prudent. He should put an end to pain. 1009. One should not in this way put trust in some householders or even those who have gone forth. Even when they have been good, some become bad. But having been bad, some become good. Stop here for a moment. So people can change. Some people, they might be practicing well, another day they turn bad. One extreme sometimes can go to another extreme. 1010. Desire for sensual pleasures, malevolence, sloth and torpor, conceit and uncertainty. These are the 5 defilements of the mind for a monk. 1011. Whose concentration does not waver, both while he is being honored and because of lack of honor, since he lives in a state of vigilance, meditating, persevering, having subtle insight into views, having delight in the annihilation of grasping. Him they call a good man. 1013. Even the great sea, the earth, a mountain, and the wind are not applicable in simile to the teacher's excellent release. 1014. Keeping the wheel rolling, having great knowledge, concentrated, being like earth, water, fire, the elder is not attached, he is not opposed. Stop here for a moment. It's like earth, water, fire. This simile the Buddha gave to his son Rahula. He said to Rahula, be like the earth. When you spit on the earth doesn't react. When you shit on the earth or do anything to the earth, burn the earth, also it doesn't react. So in the same way, water and fire. So it's just like the gong is already cracked. When you hit it, there's no sound, no reaction. That's the Arahant. 1015. Having attained the perfection of wisdom, having great discernment and great thought, not dull, but as though dull, he always wonders, quench. So a person with great wisdom, he acts like a fool. You don't know. 1016. The teacher has been waited on by me. The Buddha's teaching has been done. The heavy load has been put down. That which leads to renewed existence has been rooted out. 1017. Strive with vigilance. This is my advice. Come now, I shall be quenched. I am completely released in every way.